So we're starting here with part 2. We finished part 1, and part 1 was really all about the war and the great migration that the war set off here inside the country. And part 2 is mostly going to be about the ways that black people were now fighting back. Fighting back in ways that we have not seen much before. We're going to see this most dramatically in the summer of 1919, which was the greatest wave of racial violence that the country had ever seen. But before we get to 1919, a lot of the things that we'll see happen in 1919 happened first in the city of East St. Louis in 1917, when the war was still going on. What had brought all the black migrants to these cities? Jobs, right. Jobs was the reason. And that meant that in lots of these cities, what did white people say the recently arrived black migrants were doing? They often shook their fists while they said it.
Taking our jobs?
Right, taking our jobs. Taking our jobs. This was a kind of class resentment mingling with racial resentment. And this was encouraged by employers. When white workers went on strike, they were almost always replaced by black workers. And that was exactly what happened in East St. Louis in 1917. East St. Louis was like a dirty, gritty industrial town. What state is that in? We would think it would be Missouri. It's actually Illinois. So what's in Missouri? St. Louis. East St. Louis is actually on the other side of the river in Illinois. It's its own city. So yeah, it's actually in Illinois. And East St. Louis was, like I said, a dirty industrial town. And in 1917, black people were about 10% of the population in East St. Louis. 5 years earlier, there were almost no black people in East St. Louis. And now they're 10% of the population. White workers in East St. Louis went on strike from an aluminum manufacturer. And when the white workers at the aluminum company went on strike, what did the aluminum company do?
Hired black people.
Right, hired black workers to replace them. This increased the tensions between the two groups that were already there. It's important to realize now, for what's about to happen, that the violence that's about to happen here was encouraged by the leaders of the White Workers' Union. At one point, they called black people a scab race, which is a real insult among workers. What's a scab?
Someone who takes the job of someone who's striking.
Yeah, someone who takes the job of someone who's on strike. So to call them a scab race means that that's what they all are. And again, to white workers, this means that they're taking our jobs. So white people in East St. Louis repeatedly started attacking black people. And these were just like random violent incidents around town. Black people began arming themselves to defend themselves. Whose side are the police on? Right, definitely. The police are on the side of the white members of the community. Black people saw the police as part of their oppression. So on a summer night in 1917, it appears that some people in the black neighborhood opened fire on a police car. And when they did, and it's not like that's ever solved. Like, I can't tell you for sure that black people shot at the police car, but somebody in the black neighborhood shot at the police car. And that became the excuse to take the attacks against the black community to a higher level. Now, mobs of white people began burning black people's homes, killing men, women, and children. The goal, really, was to drive black people out of East St. Louis. What did the police do while all this was going on?
Nothing.
The police joined in.
Oh.
Worse than nothing. The police joined in and participated in the attacks on the black community. The governor sent the Missouri National Guard, and many of them joined in the rioting. At least 40 black people were killed, hundreds more injured. But that 40 as a death toll seems kind of sketchy, because there were also accounts of mass graves outside the city, and those don't include the 40 confirmed deaths. But while black people were being overwhelmed and attacked from all sides, they fought back throughout the East St. Louis violence. And when it was over, there were 40 dead black people, but there were also 11 dead white people. Again and again, black people showed a willingness to defend their lives with violence. Remember, the president had said that we were going into this war to make the world safe for democracy? Did it seem like there was much democracy in East St. Louis? No. That's what is going on in this cartoon from the Chicago Defender over here. So you see the black mother with her children. East St. Louis is on fire behind her back there. And she says, "Mr. President, why not make America safe for democracy?" So black people are calling the president and the country hypocrites for promising democracy but not having it here at home. The NAACP, with their headquarters in New York City, they organized a massive silent protest to condemn what happened in East St. Louis. It was a powerful sight as thousands of black people and a few white supporters marched through New York City in complete silence. No songs, no speeches, no rallying slogans, just a protest in complete silence. And look at what they did here. A bunch of cute little kids in their NAACP shirts, right? And what does their banner mean? What's the meaning of that?
World's only safe for white people.
Yeah, so Wilson said we were going to make the world safe for democracy, right? But this world in the United States isn't safe for black people. So again, this is very important as a strategy, using the president's own words against him to say he's a hypocrite. The whole country's hypocritical. The war ended at the end of 1918. Was the U.S. on the winning side?
Yes.
Right. So remember, we didn't talk much about the actual war, right? But the Allies won. So Britain, France, the U.S., and who lost?
German.
Germany, right. So Germany lost, Britain and France and the U.S. won. So the war ends at the end of 1918. And then in 1919, lots of these veterans, white men and black men, start returning home to the United States. These black men, they came home different. They had seen the world. They had spent time in Paris. And they came home determined not to go back to the same treatment they had left. And that idea of coming home with a new mentality, a new mindset, black people describe that as the new Negro. The new Negro was an attitude, a mindset. So, like you might say to someone, I am a new Negro. What do you think people meant by that? What were they saying about themselves?
Like they had pride.
Right. So they are proud of who they are. What else? Pride's a big part of it. What else?
They accept.
What's that?
I'm not sure.
Any ideas? It is a willingness to defend themselves, which is central for a group of people who get attacked all the time and the law looks the other way and does nothing. To be a new Negro meant, I will stand up for myself. I will defend myself. And this attitude was common among the veterans coming home. And remember, there are 400,000 of them coming home. But it's going to be strongest among which of those veterans? Any idea? Which of those veterans would come home with this attitude strongest?
Who's in combat?
The 40,000 who actually fought under French command. Right. So the attitude was common among veterans, but the attitude was not limited to veterans. So you might just be a guy who moved from Alabama to Chicago, and now you call yourself a new Negro. So it was common among veterans, but also found just among migrants, the people who had escaped from the South. Du Bois, remember he had told black people to stand shoulder to shoulder with their white fellow citizens? Well, now, looking at the violence in East St. Louis and seeing that black people weren't going to get democracy after supporting this war, Du Bois knew that he had been had. He had been deceived. And now, Du Bois said, by the God of heaven, we are cowards and jackasses if now that the war is over, we do not marshal every ounce of our brain and brawn to fight the forces of hell in our own land. We return. We return from fighting. We return fighting. Make way for democracy. We saved it in France, and by God, we will save it in the United States, or we will know the reason why. And that might be explained as what kind of attitude? What kind of attitude might that statement be explained as? This statement?
A new Negro.
This is a great explication of the entire attitude of the new Negro. Right. That is what it means. How are we coming back from war? Fighting. Right. Determined to fight the forces of hell in our own land.
It's 40.
So stop.